welcome to this exciting new episode of Sathology Debunking Mythology. Today we are going to cover the part 5 of the Yuga Prakarana. Today is the conclusion. And I'm really thankful to all of you for liking the other 4 parts. And by next week, you'll see it as a playlist. So you can play these videos together. And also the one of the things that we have made a change. And first of all, I also want to thank you, those of you who appreciate our talks. And Nilesh and I are from a common school of thought. So, and Nilesh is a Muni. I consider him as a Muni researcher. Whatever he does is backed by evidence, and he always leaves it to you to debunk it. He says this is his research, and you have to. If you have a problem, you need to present a counter evidence, and he always is willing to accept it. So take it that way, and it's like we are all here to, we all have faith in our shastra and our knowledge. So without delay, let us welcome our great friend and a researcher and a Muni, Shri Nilesh Oak.
Namaskar, Aditya ji.
I had to put that comment out, Nilesh ji, today because people take it too personally. So
Yes,
it's important to use brain over brawn. And
correct. And I should also mention something
yes,
based on what you said. You said I put my claims backed by evidence, so I assert my claims. And then I want actually people either to take with Shraddha, they can
yeah,
accept it. That's
yeah,
the easy path, assuming they trust me, trust my research. But that is not where it has to end. They can actually critique it brutally, logically, scientifically. They can come up with a alternate claim which is better than mine for whatever that particular thing it is. Do you know what I am experiencing for last 10 years since I published my first book? That was when did the Mahabharata war happen? Occasionally there are researchers or there are people who claim themselves as researchers. I mean, anybody can be researcher, so that's not a problem. They will claim themselves as researcher, and they will also claim they have either debunked my claim or they have provided the critique for my claim. And yes, they have written something or they have said something on the video, but unfortunately many times they just writing something against my research, they consider that as a debunking or a critiquing. So that's another problem, and we have many professors joining. So I think it is good to mention that in the there is a very specific method how you critique something, which is you do the Purva Paksha. You almost have to present the thesis from the that person's point of view whose thesis you are critiquing. So if it is
correct.
my claim, first they have to show a proper understanding of my claim from my perspective before they can do that. That is the Sanatani Vedic parampara. But I have yet to, in last my 10 years, I have yet to come across even a single individual, single, no exception, who has even shown a minor sense of that critiquing ability, that understanding of Purva Paksha, that scientific acumen and logical reasoning. So I am eagerly waiting for people to come and critique my claim.
Exactly. I think the same thing happened to me with the Narada book and the
Hmm.
Yudhishthir book, where I presented Narad Muni as a foremost philosopher in every possible way.
Which he, yeah,
Not a, he's not like a cheap chugalkhor or hearsay guy.
correct, correct. In fact, in Mahabharata, Narada Muni is praised as
Correct.
one of the rare individuals who truly understands the meaning of Vedas.
Exactly. And in that book also got critically, people have a lot of critics on that.
Hmm.
And my another book on why Yudhishthir is the strongest emperor ever.
Hmm.
Because humility doesn't mean weakness. Humility
Hmm.
is a portrait shown only by the strong.
Good
And
point.
I therefore I consider you very humble also, because
Hmm.
the one line definition of humility is to not be anxious for the satisfaction of being honored by others,
There you
and
go.
which you are very nicely presenting it also.
Yeah.
So in today's session about yoga, and so we are going to, it's a concluding session, and also it is, I would say, the starting session also,
Sure.
because it just gives you a framework. And one thing you very well said it, that we are presenting the point of view of Vyasa and Narada, the
Mhm.
authorities. If somebody has a problem, they have to question. They have to, again, based on that, they have to question it.
Correct. And same thing for, I mean, you said Vyasa, which means Vyasa's work, like Mahabharata.
Correct.
So when many times people question my evidence, and I want them to question in a proper way. I mean, many people just pure, I mean, lack what is scientific acumen, what is logical reasoning. So many times they will say something which is, they're not critiquing even me or even my claim, they're critiquing Mahabharata text.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
actually, they go to Quora and Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Quora, Wikipedia doesn't make you Gyani. It makes you
Yeah.
a Gyani.
Right. Right.
So it's
It's a
anyway.
good it could be a good starting point, but then they have to go to the original text, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Especially if you're speaking any Indian mother tongue, you have Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, Hindi.
Hmm.
You should read your own language and quote your own authors.
Hmm.
That's the least you can do.
Right.
Sitting in USA also we quote, and also there are Western authors also who have done a great research, and they are also
Yes.
Vedic
Yes.
in a way. And I would like to say even them you can quote who follow the spirit of Vyasa. You
Yeah.
know, eh,
They are more Vedic than many people in India,
correct.
right?
So let's get
All right.
started.
Okay. So let me start sharing because that gives the context. And Aditya ji, I'm going to show a little software demo today. So I might need your help in case I get stuck in the sharing of a screen.
Sure.
So do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is part 5 of a Yuga Prakarana. And Prakarana means we are very focused on this subject of a Yuga and try to avoid the digressions. Only we use the illustrations which help understand this Yuga. So quickly to recap, I call this VASP PPTC matrix, the Yuga enchilada. And I'm going to show you some enchiladas from different countries of South America today, by the way. Okay. Okay. All right. So x-axis of timekeeping goes from a psychological, physiological definition of time to all the way the space-time. And within the space-time, we are aware of the chronological time, like that we use to track events or separate the two events. And there is also this theoretical understanding of time that we use to understand formation of the cosmos, formation of the solar system, geological evolution on the earth, biological evolution, and so on. So if we use the vertical axis of applicability in the sense of a very local context, contextual, versus a global universal phenomenon, and to use of a time, use of a yuga to understand this, then we got 4 quadrants. The left side is a karma pradhan, which means the emphasis of that yuga definition is on the action. On the right side, the jnana pradhan, meaning the emphasis of the definitions of yuga on the right side, they are on the knowledge of the formation of cosmos, evolution of cycles, and also the knowledge of historical events, future events, tracking them, separating them using some time component that gives us a sense of separation. Okay. So I also call them by the name of like theoretical, okay, for example, or chronological, philosophical, or practical. Out of that, the very second part, we looked at the philosophical definition. I'll not repeat those right now. Then the third section, we went into practical definition. The previous one, we did the theoretical aspect of yuga. And in this time, the last episode, we are going to do this final aspect of the chronological aspect of yuga, okay, which is where we began, if you remember, by where I set up the problem of the timing of Ramayana, timing of Mahabharata, and then somebody bringing another definition which is very common but extremely irrelevant to track the historical events, but that is unfortunately what is being used, and it has created a mess, it has created a chaos, a disaster, and we are going to solve that disaster. We are going to give an explanation why that is a disaster and what people need to do. All right. So again, I should have taken away these ones. Okay. So another way to understand these quickly, those 4 buckets, is like this. Theoretical, we are trying to understand, we are using the concept of yuga. Yuga simply means an interval of time. That is common for all four quadrants. But in theoretical domain, theoretical quadrant, we are using the yuga concept in the sense of how to explain a complex phenomenon in comprehensible terms, like biological evolution, geological evolution, and so on. If we go to philosophical, we are trying to essentially answer the question using yuga as a concept: what is time and what is perception? So if the things are hunky dory, we are calling it Satya Yuga. If things are really bad, we are calling it Kali Yuga. So it is in the sense of the perception, our perception of it, our meaning not the individual perception, but a perception of a society, a perception of a nation, a perception in the world, like taking a whole global survey or something like that. That's why its emphasis is also on the global and universal. If we come to the practical definition of a yuga, it's very much individual. How can I make use of the time? This is where the Einstein's experiments comes into the picture. Sitting with a beautiful lady for an hour feels like a minute, as Einstein uh, showed with his experiment based on his own perception. Very, very local, very contextual. We wouldn't have felt that way. If we were observing him, we would have said, well, he was sitting there for 57 minutes. But to him, it felt like 1 minute. Or Aditya ji referred to one of the shlok from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtak, where he is feeling the separation from Krishna, one nimesha, like a yuga. Okay, it's very personal, it's very local, it's very contextual. It also applies to our growth, going from being infancy to youth to adult to old age and finally death. Okay, how do we feel at any particular point? And how can we fix it also? So, because remember, this is a karma pradhan, the emphasis is on a action. You can take action to slow down certain yoga. Okay, so like if you are cheerful, you don't take yourself too seriously in most of the matters. Even at a very old age, you can be like a youthful person, like an infant, the innocence. Okay, so actually you can do something to actually achieve that thing. It's a very psychological, physiological state. And the last one, which is what most of us know, and in the case of history, that is the only quadrant that matters, which is the timekeeping, in the sense of how to sequence the historical events and how to separate the historical events, one event from another, how to recognize that there was a much shorter period between two historical events versus other two historical events, and so on. Okay, how to trace the occurrence of something happening in time. Okay, so that's the one we are going to look at. Okay, because I call the enchilada, I thought I'll show you some enchilada, just a figurative way. Theoretically, it may, the definition may be like, that's how enchilada should look like. There is the cheese on the side if you need it, nicely rolled, those rolls of tortillas and sauce and bread on the side. Okay, if you want it, that's theoretical. But you know what? Philosophical person may say, well, it's not just the shape of it, but it's the nutrients. And in principle, you can combine it in 10 different ways. By the way, what I'm showing you is also a enchilada, but in a different place. But it looks very different if you just look at it. Now, if you want to be practical, you are in a hurry, you don't want to spend time cooking this whole dish. What do? You quickly go to a Mexican restaurant here in America, Tex-Mex or a Mex-Mex, all right? And more than likely, you're going to get something that looks like this. Okay, that's enchilada too. Okay, enjoy it, right? Buen provecho. Yeah. And then I want to show you this one. This one comes from Honduras. Okay, but actually you can make it at home too. You can make any of these, but that one simply starts with a corn tortilla. Quickly add the ingredients and roll it. That looks different. Okay, but they're all enchiladas. Now, enchiladas can be easily mixed up, but the yuga definitions that we looked at, they should not be, they cannot be mixed up. Otherwise, it creates a mess, it creates a disaster. And that is exactly what has happened with the using this million years of yuga concept and foolishly trying to apply it to the chronological events of, say, Buddha to Mahabharata to Ramayana to Rigveda and so many other historical events. So therefore, just to remind you, let's get to the original problem where we started. Okay, the Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Again, Mahabharata 7,500 years ago, Ramayana more than 14,000 years ago. That's our time axis. So far, so good. And Rigveda going back more than 24,000 years ago. Again, the evidence backed by, corroborated by unlimited data points from multiple disciplines of sciences. Now, where is the problem? The problem comes with this Yuga concept, because Mahabharata is described as the interface of Dwapara and Kali. Ramayana is described as Treta. That's all good. We have no problem with it, because remember, we have looked at 4 different categories of Yuga. Okay, it can be these words, that Ramayana as a Treta Yuga and Mahabharata as a Dwapar Yuga or end of Dwapar Yuga. Valmiki or Vyasadeva might have said in a different context. We don't know which of the 4 contexts they used. But what we are doing, or not we, many of the students or many of the folks who try to make sense of this Dwapara and Treta of Ramayana did, is they used a definition of a yuga from one quadrant and applied it to another quadrant, which they should not have done. Whoever did that, and whoever continues to stick to it like a dogma. Okay, and dogma is not acceptable in Sanatan Vedic Dharma. All right, so this is the Yuga dogma problem, which is to say, we take this one of the thousands of different definitions of Yuga, and I gave you illustrations for each of these. But this definition comes from the theoretical quadrant, the top right hand quadrant, and somebody tries to use that to the bottom right hand quadrant. We have got a mess. So therefore, people ask, based on this, that Ramayana has to be more than 1,000,000 years ago, because the whole Kali Yuga just started now, maybe 5,000, 7,000, whatever years. But at least add the whole Dwapar, because we have to go to Treta, and that's where the problem is. So let's now look at the 4th quadrant and the illustrations from the 4th quadrant. Okay, so this one, the philosophical psychology are just gone. We know that. But let's replace theoretical with something that we can understand. What is theoretical? It is the mathematical formulation to define the precise and accurate orbital period of a graha. If you remember our other Sattology episode that Aditya and I did on 4.32 million years of Mahayuga, that is the number I just showed you. If you start with 432,000 years of Kali Yuga, twice that is Dwapar, 3 times that is Treta, 4 times that is Satya, if you add all together, they add up to 4.32 million. That is an astronomical construct. It's a mathematical formulation so that the precise and accurate orbital periods of graha could be planets could be stated. That's it. It has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with the chronological events and using that scale to measure the chronological events. But that's exactly what happens. So the bottom one is the area of a chronology. A device, we need some kind of device there, a time machine, a time clock, whatever you want to call it, to track, to separate, and to communicate the occurrence of historical events. We should not use something from the top right hand corner and use it into bottom right hand corner. Okay, so that's our problem. Let's look at illustration 1. Suppose we look at these 2 words, just the similarity of them, and try to measure using one unit to measure another thing. We are going to have a problem. For example, light year versus solar year. Both sound like year, right? Light year versus solar year. Both are units of measuring something, but you would know what they are. For example, the light year is actually a unit for measuring the distance. How is it done? The distance that is traveled by the light, with of course the speed of light, whatever the distance that a light would travel in one solar year is called 1 light year. And it gives you a huge number, like you can look at the number. And therefore, it is a very practical number to measure the distances to various stars, for example. Okay. Now, what happens if you use that light year and say, okay, well, let me use this to count somebody's age, how old is somebody on the earth? Well, hold on. There is a problem here. The problem is not because the number is astronomically big. The problem is because one is the unit of distance, the other one is a unit of time. We shouldn't confuse that. Okay. Similarly, the think of the Mahayuga 4.32. It was precisely a mathematical formulation for precision and accuracy. We shouldn't use that unit to measure a chronological tracking. Okay, so that's the first mistake was done. Just like visually, if I want to explain that, I would say if you take a ruler, okay, which measures distance, but if you apply that to measure time, we have got a problem. Now, is there some similarity? Yes. For example, if you look at the small arm and a big arm on a wall clock, they also look like a ruler. But that's it. That's the similarity. Okay. There is no similarity. One is to measure distance, other is to measure time. Never confuse. In summary, that 4.32 million Mahayuga, or that 1/10 of that, is the 432,000 years duration of a Kali Yuga, used in the astronomy sense, nothing to do with the chronological time. If you use to track or separate or communicate historical events of last 100,000 years, I'm just using that as a number. It can be 50,000 years, it can be 200,000 years. We are going to be in trouble. And that has exactly what has happened. Okay, let's go to illustration 2. Sometimes the same word, different definitions. Here we looked at the light year versus solar year. Okay, but what if even the word is same? Now, if you want to measure the chronological time, if you go to any hotel, you are checking in, and usually you will find just behind the reception different wall clocks and showing different times, like London, New York, Tokyo, so that you can synchronize your watch, right? What do we need to track the chronological time? We need a reliable movement via moving objects. In this case, that small arm and the long arm, short arm and a big arm, right? We also need a reference frame to track the movement of moving objects, which is what? The reference frame of 1, 2, 3, 12, 3, 4, all the way to 12, equidistant from each other in a 360 degrees. That helps. And we also need a reference starting point to know the true time, which is what? We want to know which area, region we are looking at. So New York, is it New York time we are looking at, referring to? Is it the London time? Is it the Tokyo time? You will find essentially this concept, very concept of a wall clock, you can easily see how it came from the celestial clock. Okay. And I'm going to show you a simulation of that. Okay. So now there is a problem of that unreliable reference starting point. If I say right now it's 1:30 p.m., 1:30 in the afternoon, but if I don't specify where it is, of course, because you have this knowledge of the time zones, you will able to figure it out that it is the Eastern Standard Time. But if you don't have that reference, and I say, okay, it's 1:30, can we just take a lunch break? And you say, well, no, I mean, it's too late for me. It's the evening because I'm in London. Or you'll say it's too early because I am still in California. So we need that reference point. And what happens is this. When I'm talking to someone in the Eastern Standard Time zone, I don't have to specify Eastern Standard Time, but because it's understood. So that same thing happens with these different calendars. Saptarshi calendar is there in the Indian system. There is a Shalivan calendar, Vikram calendar. Some people refer to Yudhishthir Shaka, and there are many other things. If you understand, if the two parties communicating with each other understand when that particular Shaka started and they have kept nice records of it, they can use it. And actually people use it. That's perfectly fine. But is that a absolute standard that can always be tracked if we lose that information? For example, Gregorian calendar. If we, what is the standard for Gregorian calendar, or Saptarshi or Shalivan or Vikram or Yudhishthir? It's not very clear. Okay, some people, many of these calendars, including Gregorian calendar, started long time after its reference point. For example, Gregorian calendar, we will talk about right now 2021. Okay, but do you know when the Gregorian calendar began? It began 1582, only like 500 years ago. Okay, granted, it made use of the Julian calendar and so on and so forth. That is the same problem with Saptarshi, Shalivan, Vikram, and Yudhishthir calendar. So here is my quick solution to you for your consideration. Okay, so this is what I started after 8 years of working with the great Panchanga maker, okay, the calendar makers of India, the tradition, the family traditions called Date. By the way, Aditya ji, they come from Solapur.
Yes, that.
Okay, That, I mean, they are still in Solapur. Of course, they are spread all over. And so I finally collaborated with them. What I mean by finally is that I was working to find out a good Panchanga makers for 8+ years since 2012. And finally, I could, with their help, they were convinced of my research, as you said initially. I don't want to participate, collaborate with someone who is not convinced of my research. That has not much value for me. It's a lot of wastage of time. But I want to show you. So there is a Bharat Dinadarshika. That's on the left. It is in the English. The right in Hindi. But look at the three calendars. There are three relative chronological reference point. The Gregorian, right, the first line, and it is there on the first line because, believe it or not, but most of us only understand that date around the world right now. The British were that impressive in terms of pushing whatever the time clock they want people to use. They wanted people to use around the world. Okay. Then we have the Saura date, which is a solar date from the Indian system, in terms of the date and a month, 3 and Tapasya. I'm not going to explain the calendar, but the 2077 that it is using is the Shalivahana Shaka, one of the relative reference point. If you go down, you're going to find the Shalivan Shaka is here, and this one is a Vikram Samvat Shaka. Okay, so these are different numbers. They started with certain king. They started with the coronation of a certain king, and there is nothing wrong with it. But in the long term, there is a challenge with the usage of it. But so therefore, what I have suggested using 5561 BC as the year of Mahabharat war is the introduction of another reference point. But this is based on the celestial clock, not some king somewhere ruling it. This is something that anyone can verify, of course, going back historically using the Mahabharata text that will take them to 5561 BCE. So that 5561 plus 2020 right now, and on around March 22nd, it will change to from 7,581 to 7,582, because the solar year begins with the day of spring equinox. Okay, so that's the reason it will change. Now, what I want to do is, let me see if you can. So Aditya, I need your help in stop sharing for me first.
Okay.
Okay, all right. All right, let me see. Okay, so I don't know what happens. I'll check my Zoom connection. So now I'm going to share another one. Okay, and let's see when you see it. Do you see it on your screen?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, so for our viewers, this is a quick demo. This is not an astronomy software. This is a quick demo. Just like I said, when we look at the wall clock, what are we seeing? There is a reference frame like 1 through 12. The 360 degrees are divided into 12 blocks, okay, of equidistance. And then we have two arms, right? And of course, you can have a third arm for the seconds, but let's stick with the two arms for a minute. So we have two arms. One is a short arm, another one is a long one. The short one is for the hours, the long one is for the minutes. And so we are tracking their movements to decide how much time has elapsed and make sense of it, right? Look at the celestial clock here. What you are saying is that Earth at the center, because we are talking of doing the time intercalation or time calculations for us who are on the Earth. Okay, for example, Einstein would have asked, if you said, how much time do you have? He said, whose time? Okay, because it depends on where are we talking. And by the way, beautiful, maybe after, let me finish this demo, and then we can discuss the time of the devas and time of the pitrus, our ancestors, and so on, and what were some of the beautiful concepts in our ancient Indian narratives and how they perfectly match with what is seen in the celestial clock. So let me show you the celestial clock. Earth is at the center. It is inclined at an angle. And you can see just around the Earth, this white circle here is the orbit of the moon, as seen from the Earth, of course. And then this yellow line is the orbit of the sun. That is the ecliptic. That is the reference point for everything we do in astronomy. And this is the sun. This is the vernal equinox. Think of it as the point of 22nd, 23rd March. This is SS, that is summer solstice, 21st June. This is around 20 September, the autumnal equinox, and this is 21st, 22nd December. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, you will see that whole circle also moves, and I'll tell you why that moves that way. Okay. So we are going to do few quick simulations here. I have deliberately increased the speed a little bit. So look, it started. Moon is making rotations around the Earth, and Sun is also appears to be making rotations around the Earth. Don't get too bogged down why Sun is going around the Earth. Well, it's all has to do with the relative frame of reference. Okay, if you are sitting on the Mars, then everything will look like going around the Mars. Okay, same thing here. So I'm
And
going
I
to
think
show
I think
you.
this is the ideal this is a description of the Veda also, because uh, you're right, it's a relative,
Hmm.
because if something going around a circle, it'll look from wherever you mention it looks going around it.
Right. And now I'm going to show you a few more variations to see how this beautifully helps us make sense of the time in the chronological sense, in a shorter time frames. Now, we are not talking big time frames. For example, just to, in case our viewers are wondering why this whole thing is moving, remember I said it's all relative motion. For example, Einstein said, in explaining relativity, think of it like this, right? So he talked about spending time with a beautiful lady and sitting on a hot pan. That's one way of explaining. Another way people tried to explain, or when Einstein used that analogy, is he said, look, you're at the train station, and usually you think, when is the train coming to the station? Think of it, if there is no difference whether you say the train when the train is going to come to the station, or if you say when the station is going to the train. If you don't make a distinction between that, then you understand what relativity is. Okay. And so that's what it is. Now, if you saw why they were moving because actually it is, remember, it's the Earth's orbit around the sun. The sun is here. So now see how visually you can quickly see the change. Okay. So I'm going to start again. So actually it's the Earth going around the sun, but depending on who is watching and what is the reference point, you can see one thing as a steady and another thing as a moving. Okay. So it is the blue line, dotted line, is the Earth's orbit around the sun. Okay. But when that happens, from the Earth, the whole thing can be seen the way we are seeing it. Okay. So what I just did is I added actually the Earth's orbit. I'm going to increase the speed a little bit, okay, to manage our time here. Okay.
If you make it elliptical, it'll look totally different.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And so just for a simplicity, it's not made elliptical, right? Now what I'm going to add, for example, is just I kept it simplified. Now what I showed you there was the ecliptic plane of the sun. Okay. The sun's plane as seen from the Earth. But remember, Earth is inclined at an angle. So in reality, there is that celestial equator, that is what causes the season, that angle. I can add that plane. So just to avoid the confusion, I'm going to remove that. But let me add seasons for a minute. Okay. So now you can see the seasons are determined by the sun, and moon has nothing to do with it. Okay. Just one quick one. Okay. So let me reset and start. So if you want to know the season, only note down the location of the sun. Okay, so right now it's a Grishma season, which is a summer. Now it's a rainy season, Varsha season. Again, we are looking at the 6 seasons of India. Then now the Sharat season, pre-autumnal season. Now Hemanta Rutu, that is the think of as a autumn. Okay, now we come to the point of winter solstice. And now the Shishira season, which is a winter season. And now we are going to enter the spring season, Vasanta season. And of course, the cycle continues. Okay, I'm going to remove the seasons for a minute. Now remember, so we have a fast body moving, that is the moon. You can think of as the long arm, like a minute's arm. You have a slow body moving around the Earth, as seen from the Earth, that is the sun. You can think of the short arm, like a hourly. Now, something else. What if I add the reference point? Just like on the wall clock, the 360 degrees are divided into 12. Again, remember why 12? That goes back to the 12 lunations, 12 solar months, and so on and so forth. So our wall clock has essentially come from the celestial clock. Okay, you can start seeing the beauty and a similarity. But just like we have those reference of 1 through 12, let me add something here. That is the nakshatra reference frame. Or many people in the West are familiar with the zodiacs, the 12 zodiacs, which are essentially the same. Instead of dividing this whole 360-degree into 27 nakshatras, it is divided into 12 zones. Okay. But I'm also going to remove the Earth's orbit, so to keep it clean. And let's do it one more time. Okay. The last time. So now you can see the position of the sun or a moon at any point. So if I can pause it right now, I can say, well, all right, the sun is in a Kritika nakshatra and the moon is in Dhanishta nakshatra. Okay. Or just to give you another example, so I'm going to stop it here. Okay. So the moon is exactly opposite of the sun. That is a full moon day. Okay. And I would say, where is that full moon day? What is the nakshatra? It's between Mula and Jeshta. So this is the lunar month of Jeshta. Okay. And then sun is in the Mrugashirsha nakshatra. Okay. So that's how actually we can find out. So just like we in the wall clock, we look at the long arm, short arm and decide their positions. And based on that, we can say, okay, it is 1:47 or whatever the time is. Similarly, here using the celestial clock, we can tell which time of the year it is in terms of season, which is determined by the sun. And the moon, moon is like a minutes, it allows you to know the finer days, like every day. Like, so moon is like a daily clock and the sun is like a monthly clock or a seasonal clock. Okay, so that's what it is. And after this, I'm going to stop. All right. So that was just a quick demonstration. Now, this is sufficient to track on a very short scale, like a 1 year, 2 year, 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, and so on. What we need is a reference point to track longer periods of time, like we are using the Gregorian calendar or the Vikram Samvat or Shalivan Samvat. And my point is, those points are just fine. But over a long period of time, these things are forgotten as to what was their reference point. That has happened to all the relative index. And therefore, what I have proposed is the Mahabharata Samvat as a reference point, because it is not based on anything that is happening as a relative event on the earth. Because although the Mahabharata was a historical event on the earth, the beauty of the intellect, the great intellect of Vyasadeva, is that he decided to, instead of giving a relative scale of time, he encoded the whole Mahabharata with the celestial clock using the Arundhati Vasishta and the 300 plus astronomy references. Okay, so that's the beauty. With that, I'm going to stop this, and so save is fine. And so Aditya ji, if you can again stop sharing for me, that will be great.
It already stopped sharing.
Okay,
so you
perfect.
can share the other slide.
Yeah, no, I'm done with the slides, by the way. Right.
So one of the things which really struck me is the heliocentric model. See, in our Shastra, if you see the distance from Bhagavad Puran, the distance of the moon and the sun is very accurately given. Very accurately, Bhagavad Puran says it, and many other Mahabharata says it. And scientifically, it has been validated also. So the distance from Earth to Moon, and I think we should cover a different show on that, because that is more relevant over there. One thing really strikes me with the entire 5 series that we did on Yuga is that you need a placeholder from where you can count the Yuga.
Yes.
And the Krita, Tre, Dwa, Kali. Like Krita is the Kali is also the last Yuga. So the words itself say based on the quality and also number of qualities. Krita means all qualities. 3 means only 3. Dwa means only 2.
Yeah.
And Ka means Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Varnamala, Ka, Li.
Right.
Kal, I. So it's
By the way, the Kruta,
yeah,
for our Spanish speaking audience, think of a cuatro.
Cuatro. Yes, that's right.
That is that 4. That is that 4, by the way.
Yeah, actually, that came to my mind also before.
And Chaturtha C becomes a cuatro also, like a cha, yes, but also as a ka,
Ka. So very, very interesting. I think people will get a good idea that how to qualify yoga also. Like the yoga can be a moment also, and yoga
Hmm.
can be a large period also, depending on how you see it.
Yeah.
And the metaphorical way of presenting it is that even I don't want to blink my eyelids, like Gopi says,
Correct.
because it looks like a yoga to me. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I
mean the
will
yoga
feel.
becomes an eye blink.
Yeah, I will feel the separation from Krishna. Right? They are looking
Yeah,
at Krishna, and they will feel the separation.
they
Yes.
curse Brahma that he created eyelids.
Yeah, so that is a psychological state of a yoga. That's
Yeah,
very important, right? And
correct.
that's not to be, so that particular state of mind or that particular measurement of yoga of what the gopis are feeling or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are feeling is not to be used to track the separation between Ramayana and Mahabharata.
Correct. That's right.
Okay.
That's
Or like, when our health was good and we were disease free, that is what Charaka Samhita refers to. That is a philosophical definition of a yoga
yeah.
that should not be confused to again track the time. And then again, that million Mahayuga, 432,000, they are not that. Yes, it's valid, it is meant for certain thing to know the precise and accurate timing of the planets. It is not meant for knowing when Mahabharata war happened
Right.
and what is the gap between the Mahabharata and Ramayana.
That's right. Anyway, for Inquisitive, this five series will be very important to analyze it, and obviously, you have a right to create your own framework and question it.
Absolutely. Yes,
And
yes. Yeah,
and the comments are always welcome over there. So
right.
thank you, Nileshji, for your time, and thank you for viewers for staying and patiently watching it. Do watch it on YouTube, send it to your friends, and I think next week you can watch it on playlist also. Namaskar. Thank you.
Namaskar. Thank you.